anymore because you'd expect.
Oh my god, that's pretty funny.
Do we all need to clap at the same time?
No. I'll sort it out somehow. Yes,
Ow.
Mike. So
Hello.
we should call you out before the show continues. So you asked us, hey, do you want to start the show a little bit early? And then oh yeah,
And then I fell
maybe,
asleep.
And then I'm like, oh yeah, let's start early. And then we couldn't get in contact with you.
Yeah, well, because you're like, no, I can't. It's gonna have to be at the time when
I didn't say no, I can't. I said I'm busy right now, but most likely
You said
normal
most
time.
likely 9. So then I'm like, all right, well, I better take a nap because I was feeling really tired. So I took a nap.
This is like one of the most Mike things that you could do.
I went to
think.
sleep. And before that, I changed my girlfriend's background to a couple of girls making out.
Okay.
But I left the actual normal screen. So the actual lock screen, left it as the cat. Still our cat.
This is what I worry when
So
Mike
then when
hosts
you
the show.
unlock it, boom, it comes up. It's brilliant.
Only that would be a normal activity for you, Mike. Like, you're saying that like
It
that's
was.
just the most mundane thing you've done.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I do that every day.
A normal Sunday for me. Yeah. Also cleaned up behind me. As best
Didn't you used to have like a poster on your wall of like
Yeah.
the kiss or whatever that famous
the
poster
kiss,
was?
yeah.
Yeah, it was
That's
a
right.
famous. It was a famous photo. To be fair. Yeah.
All right, let's get back on track. Let's just jump straight into the next segment.
All right.
What have you been playing this week, Mike?
Okay, so I've been playing a bit of Assault and Sacrifice, which is the sequel to Salt and Sanctuary that I've clocked a little while ago. Big fan. Played it on multiple platforms. Last I played it on the Switch. It's the same kind of game. A little bit different though in the way it's been set up. It's kind of like how you have Dark Souls 1 going to Dark Souls 2. Certain mechanics are a bit different. This has actually taken a certain bit from Dark Souls. So when you die, you lose a chunk of your health until you use an item to get it back to 100%. So took it straight out of the Dark Souls book. And it's got some other interesting elements that the original didn't, such as these mage hunts. So you sort of have to chase these. I think it's actually playing right now. Chase these little mages across the screen in order to defeat them and their little minions, which is a cool little mechanic so far. I don't know how well it's been received in general online. I don't think it's been received as well as the original, what I've seen so far, but I've had quite a bit of fun with it so far. It's also made me want to go back to the original on Switch, so I sort of played around with that with a different class. And yeah, it's been a really cool game. Did you have a question, Swinny?
No, I was just gonna say. So the other week I called you out for using the term "clocked," as being a bit outdated. Now,
Okay.
Every single time.
PlayStation have published their ultimate list of popular gaming-related terms, and guess what's not on the list? Clocked is not on their list, and
What?
it is pretty comprehensive. It's actually
Suck
it is a
Sony.
pretty good list. I'll share you a link, Mike, if you haven't seen it.
And clock's not on it.
Clocked is not on it.
I think clocked
gonna
is
give
not a
some
US
clock
term,
now.
right? Like, I think it must
it's
be.
a modern term.
Well, no, it's definitely not
It's
a
an
modern
early
term.
mid-90s term.
Yeah, it's for
Well-
old people like us.
I'm gonna keep saying clocked. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've noticed that you now always say clocked since when you pointed it out. You've
Yeah,
been saying it all the
subconsciously,
time.
I'm not intentionally saying it. So, and there is another game I played.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
keep. You can keep the B-roll going if you want. That's fine. There is
Not if it's
another
a different game. There's no
that I
point.
played a little bit of. So you know how I am a man of
principles?
my word and principles.
No, you're not.
And there's a little blacklist I've been keeping of all the games and of all the companies that I've completely blacklisted, and I will never ever buy anything from them again and never play again. And do you guys remember
Ever.
Gran
Can-
Turismo?
Mike, can we,
Yeah.
we'll do a post show or whatever, but let's actually create a proper blacklist.
Yeah, I want to see this list.
I'll have a blacklist.
But you're
Okay.
saying never ever. Like, don't give yourself some leniency. Like, you may,
Okay,
they may
well-
right their wrongs. You might,
Well,
they
they
might be able
may,
to
they
redeem
may,
themselves.
right? Exactly. So you know how I returned Gran Turismo in protest because I was really peed off at
In
what they did.
Or just Mike's on the street with
Well-
Gran Turismo.
I was just walking down the street thinking, oh man, has it been long enough that I've blacklisted these guys for? Is it time that I buy myself another copy?
So 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks seemed enough. I think they learned their lesson, to be honest. I mean, how many more weeks do you need to do that for? So yeah, so I ended up getting Gran Turismo again. So I've been playing
What?
a little bit of that.
I just
He's a man of his word.
He's a man of principles.
I'm a man of principles. And that's me. That's my week.
That's funny, man.
How about you, Integot?
Yeah, so I have been playing Switch Sports.
Did you clock it?
Well, it's not really. I guess I'm not sure how you would define that. I think maybe you could argue getting the pro league ranking of A in all the sports as like 100%ing it potentially. You could say that. But I unironically love this game. Right, I'm really enjoying it. I think this is the game. This is the game to play after Elden Ring. This is
Wow.
like the antithesis in a weird way, on the same dimension though as Elden Ring.
Does it have spirit summons?
Yes, in tennis, you have to you summon the mimic tier, and you have two characters, and you control both.
Touche.
But no, it's very fun. I've been listening to podcasts and just playing bowling, and it's also it just gets in your head as well. Like I was watching a few videos on how do you do consistent strikes in the game. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna get good at this. And then literally, I tried. I'm like, okay, now I'll try this technique that they're talking about, and I got like 260 or something. Right? I got 8 strikes in a row or some crazy number. I'm
Damn.
like, oh, I've broken this game. Sweet. I went to play online, and then they have variations with bowling. So it's like normal bowling and then like obstacle bowling almost, right? So I'm like, oh damn, this is kind of throwing me because I have to like now, aim differently, do all that stuff. Then it gets back to normal bowling. I'm like, here, I'm gonna clean this up. And it's like I'm off. Like it threw me off, and I never
Damn it.
could recapture the magic. So it's like kind of gets in your head in that way. But it's really fun. The soccer part of it is so much like Rocket League. It's friggin' insane. There's even goal explosions, and you can get different ones. And I do find I'm always playing defense because everyone's just like chasing the ball. But it is very inconsistent though. Like that's where it's completely different to Rocket League. So it does feel sometimes you're like, oh my God, like I didn't like that. How did it go in that direction? It makes zero sense.
So have you been playing this with your family?
Yeah, a little bit, but like a bit by myself, a bit with the family. So
I was just wondering how it is for for younger kids. I know some of the games are pretty simple, but some of them might be a little trickier. So.
soccer is like not soccer to me is not like a party game. All the other games are like party games. Like they don't really. Oh, volleyball's tutorial's a bit too full on. Like it takes forever to get through.
Because I know you've got to like do a certain action when it's like coming down on top of the ball coming down and stuff. So
all the phases and stuff. But like the sword one, what is it, Chumbro or whatever it's called? Bowling, of course, tennis, badminton. They're all like very easy for people to get their head around really quickly. And I'm looking forward to when golf comes out later. So, like I said, I unironically love this game. It's really, very fun. And I've just been so busy this week. I haven't had a chance to play anything else. But it is a very good game in that way. And I tell you what, like Fire Emblem Three Houses is not the game to play after Elden Ring if you want to go into. It's way harder than Elden Ring, the DLC. It's like ridiculous. I started to map out the battle, like where am I going to move all my troops? Because it's there's RNG in Fire Emblem, but strategically there are ways that you should move and shouldn't, and it's like it's getting too crazy. Like I'm just freaking trying to get through the game.
You are certainly getting your money's worth out of this DLC with how long it's taking you to get through this fucking thing.
It's crazy. I got 110 hours in that game, Fire Emblem. It's like
In the DLC alone.
I know. I genuinely think I've added 20 hours. I've only beaten a few levels. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with me? But yeah, how about you, Swinny?
Look, I've actually been playing quite a bit. So you guys have kind of breezed through your sections, so it's time to pick it up a bit with me. I've got a few things to talk about. But the first thing I wanted to say is I've got an update from my Swinny rant last episode. So last episode I ranted about Microsoft delisting Final Fantasy X and X-2 Remaster that was on Game Pass and all this bullcrap. And then I think 2 days later they relisted it again and all is right with the world. I bought it instantly. Microsoft listened to my rant. That's exactly why they relisted it. It's all because of me. It's got nothing to do
Phil.
with the long thread on Microsoft support forums. Nothing to
Totally
do with
not.
that. It's all me. It's all the Big Wig podcast. So
Indeed.
Nice.
very happy with that.
But that was
So-
kind of like what I said, right? I think someone just stuffed up and they'll reinstate it.
Well, I even said
you
on the
did say
show
that.
that there were theories that people thought it was a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't know. We really didn't. So it's good
That's
to
true.
know
That's
that
true.
that was likely the case. So
Yeah.
in terms of stuff I've been playing, so I'll get into some stuff with Game Pass. And the first one, I'm going to sum this game up in one sentence. The game is 7 Days to Die. And the one sentence is 7 minutes to uninstall this bitch. This game,
It's about how long it took
One-
me. Yes.
one of the worst games I've ever played. So
Whoa.
that's 7 Days to Die. You know, probably the ugliest game on Xbox. It's horrible.
It's pretty bad.
They're shutting the servers down in September, and they just added this game to Game Pass. It's like, why the fuck would you do that? It's just weird. Anyway, so 7 Days to Die. I'm not a fan. It's a zombie survival game. If you're into those, maybe you'll like it. I am not. Cool. The next game is Lost in Random. So I've been wanting to try this for a while. I was adding the Game Pass a few weeks ago. The concept was quite intriguing to me. So it's a world based on like chance and RNG. So like it's basically it's all about you've got a little dice companion. So all the themes are to do with randomness, which I think is just really really neat idea. But I wasn't sure what kind of game it was when I went into it. Now in the footage, if you're watching on YouTube, you can kind of see it is like it's an action game, but then it's also got a really cool combat twist where your dice companion throughout the battle will get power, and then you can kind of like freeze the battle, roll this dice buddy, and he'll give you cards, and then those cards turn into weapons that you use in the real time combat, and it's kind of like this really cool flow. It actually works really really well. I was actually quite impressed by it. It to me like the idea of taking action combat and mixing it with cards is not too far off from I think it's Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, but I wasn't a fan of the way that they did in this game. I think Lost in Random is much cooler with it. But it's got like it's the game is a very like Tim Burton-esque vibe to it, crossed with maybe the Labyrinth. So it's pretty trippy. It's not honestly for a lot of kids, it's probably a little bit too scary for younger kids to watch because it does have some really kind of grotesque monsters and things. But some of the character designs are pretty cool. But yeah, I quite liked it. The only thing is, I don't think it clicked with me enough to draw me away from the other games that I want to play. But if you up for something different and you're into kind of like Tim Burton style, worlds, then you might enjoy Lost in Random. So
This looks really cool.
yeah, the next game. Oh man, this game, Norco. I'd heard positive things about this game, but I had no idea what I was in store for when I loaded it up. I knew it was some form of adventure game. It's pretty new. It came out in March. It's only available on PC, and it's on PC Game Pass only. But what is it? So it's a super stylized adventure game. Not really like a point and click, traditional point and click though. You're moving scene to scene with a cursor, selecting things and things like that. So there's elements of it, and you have an inventory, but it's not really like definitely nothing like a LucasArts or Sierra style adventure game at all. But basically they mix it in with really unique mechanics. So it just had it in the footage there, but they actually mix in rhythm based mechanics and even things like memorization. And there's even like combat in this game. It's quite odd. But even the puzzles and the gameplay mechanics, they're really, really unique. And just look, I know integot, you're not the biggest fan of point-and-click games, especially like, we talked about Full Throttle, and there's something about the way those games are designed that just probably doesn't sit right with you all the time. This is different. So I think that you'd like this more than those kind of games. But man, this world and this story is so oddball and so unique. And the story starts pretty simply. Like you're a woman coming back to the hometown, which is Norco in Louisiana, after her mother died, and basically you get embroiled in this conspiracy to do with like a local corporation that's kind of taken over the town with factories and stuff. And it's kind of like near future-esque. So there's definitely some stuff that's like sci-fi, but it's also kind of like suburban America as well. But this game just oozes style, and the audio design is just like phenomenal. It's one of the best sounding games I've played in ages, just in terms of how they use music. And I think it's absolutely gorgeous as well. Really nice pixel art. It's actually got a CRT filter that normally CRT filters are very miss for me, so
Yeah.
they don't really add to it. I think this actually improves the overall look, and it's not on by default. So, but I'm quite far into the game. I actually would have probably beaten it if it wasn't for the next game on my list that kind of drew me away from it. I highly recommend this game, especially anyone wanting a cool, unique game. Mike, I think you'd really enjoy this. It's actually currently, if you don't count the different versions of Elden Ring, it's currently the 6th highest ranking on Metacritic for the year.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's very, very well
Interesting.
received.
Okay, cool.
And if you take away like the God of War port and I think like Stanley Parable, because it's obviously a re-release of sorts, it's like the 4th. So it's very highly rated. So Norco, I think, is a fantastic game.
Okay. Good recommendation.
But yeah, the reason why I didn't play more of it is because of Eiyuden Chronicle Rising. So this is the game that I have been playing the most this week. I've beaten this game. It's not super long, but I probably put about 15 to 20 hours into it. If the name Eiyuden Chronicle sounds familiar at all, it's probably because there was a huge, massive Kickstarter for a game called Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, which is basically a spiritual successor to the Suikoden series from Konami. That Kickstarter, which we covered on the show on episode 2 of the podcast, so back in July 2020, that Kickstarter raised 5.3 million Australian and had like 47,000 backers. So huge Kickstarter, one of the biggest in a long time. But that isn't this game. What this game is basically like an action RPG, because Suikoden is like a turn-based, or like 100 Heroes will be a turn-based RPG. This is like an introduction to the world. So it's like a smaller game in a different style that wasn't part of the Kickstarter, but they're using to obviously introduce people into the world. So it's published by 505 Games, developed by Rabbit and Bear. So that's a new studio. It's also working on the Kickstarter game. And yeah, I really enjoyed this game. So it's like a fun, light-hearted action RPG where you're building up a town, you're completing quests, you're entering dungeons, and the same kind of dungeons, but you're progressing further in each time. It's got some light Metroidvania elements in terms of you'll unlock abilities that then can crack down like certain rocks to then get into another part of the dungeon. But what I enjoyed about this game that is not going to appeal to everyone is this game is basically fetch quest the game. The entire game is built around the concept. So you know how you've got games where you're like, it's got lots of fetch quests. I think it's different when the whole game and the progression of the character.
The main quest is the fetch quest.
Exactly. There's definitely main quests, but the whole hook of the game is you're in the town, you accept like a whole bunch of quests at once, and you go out into the dungeons, you complete all the requirements, you take all the stuff back, you hand them all at the same time, and when you do, the shops get upgraded. Then you can upgrade your character more, get new tools, and things like that. So it's like a whole loop that I actually find really enjoyable, but it is definitely go there, collect 10 of those. Go there, find that one item that's just spawned in for this quest. So it is very fetch questy. So for some people, they may tire of that after a few hours. I enjoyed it, but I understand it's not going to be for everyone. But I think it's a nice looking game. I think it looks definitely nicer in motion with scrolling backgrounds and everything than stills. But it's got a different visual style to 100 Heroes. 100 Heroes is actually like the HD 2D style of like Octopath Traveler and things. This is much closer to, I guess, a bit more of a traditional look. But yeah, I really enjoyed this game. I beat 100% just before, so I think I'll be moving back to Norco soon. So.
Nice, man. Nice. Oh. On your quest to play every single Game Pass game that's available at the moment?
Yeah, I'm catching up a little bit, but it's tough.
What happens if you do get into a spot where they exit a whole bunch of games similar to what they did with Final Fantasy X and X-2?
Well, I don't know. Depends on the game whether or not I'll bite the bullet and purchase anything or not.
Well, you don't have to finish it. You just have to play
a really
them,
good game.
technically.
But like the Hitman trilogy is a series I wouldn't mind owning. So if that leaves before I give that a really good shot, I'm like, okay, well, I'll buy the Hitman games.
That's fair enough.
Can you let me know when you play that? I want to give it a crack as well.
Yeah, let me know when you play it.
I've always been meaning to.
We'll have a Hitman party.
Yeah, we'll play Hitman 3. Woo. All right, let's jump into the news. So there have been two massive Xbox exclusive that have been delayed, including the highly anticipated Starfield. Bethesda Game Studios shared the disappointing news in a statement this week. Quote, "We've made the decision to delay the launches of Redfall and Starfield to the first half of 2023. The teams at Arcane Austin, Redfall, and Bethesda Game Studios, Starfield, have incredible ambitions for their games, and we want to ensure that they receive the best, most polished versions of them." End quote. Starfield was originally slated for November 11, 2022 this year, and Redfall was penned for a September release window. Swinny, the massive loss in the console wars for you. This is Battle of Normandy.
As much as the light right above my head,
Yes,
goes against these words. I am not an Xbox fanboy.
Oh, it's back on. Huh.
This is a loss, because they relisted Final Fantasy.
It's the canon.
This is, I think, a loss in general for anyone obviously looking forward to the next Bethesda game. Because a lot of people would have been able to play it on PC, even if they, were mainly a PlayStation owner. Obviously, as long as they had a PC to run it. This really sucks, but also not surprising for me. And the last thing anybody wants is a Bethesda software game to be released before it's ready. So, yeah.
I mean, I only recently played what's it called? Skyrim, sorry. And that's a buggy mess, and I'm playing it like 10 years after it came out, right? So
it's amazing how many bugs there still are, even though it's up to the 20th edition now.
I bet, like this, the one part that is super damning about this, and then we'll get back to the games and everything, but I know you've got the note here, Swinny, but effectively what it means is that after 2 years, this is what it'll end up being, as far as we understand it, after 2 years of the Series X being on sale, there's still not one single first party exclusive that's like only on the Series X. Like I was actually putting up a graphic. I was like designing it. So I'm like, just for my own benefit to understand, right? PlayStation 5, what are the exclusive? You got the Returnals, Ratchet and Clank, Spider-Man Remastered. I was starting to put it all together. Then I started looking through the Series X. I'm like, wait a second. Is there literally not one single game that is exclusive to Series X? And I had to get you to confirm it. Like, Mike, don't you think that's a crazy stat? That there are 0 games that you need a Series X to play. You could literally play like PC or Xbox One or PS5. I just think that's crazy, man.
I think it's super crazy, and I think it's a testament to the fact that mine's just sitting there catching dust as a result of that. Because unless I want to sit on the couch and get the benefits of having it on the TV, I'm better off just playing on the PC. And I know not everyone will do that, obviously, because not everyone's got a PC that I guess is equivalent to being able to play those games. But because of that, there's just no incentive for me to jump on and actually use it. It's just sitting there catching dust. It's a bit of a shame.
I think when it comes to third-party releases, that's really damning in general. The fact that there's no games that you can just play on a Series X, really. But when it comes to first-party, I'm not surprised at all, because Microsoft said from the beginning, at least, we didn't know how long it would be, but basically each game would be available to play on Xbox One and Series X.
Yeah.
So they said that before Series X came out. But now we're seeing, for instance, Starfield will be on Xbox One, but it seems like it will probably be via streaming. So it's like that's the direction. So, well, potentially that's what I just found, was looking up then, because I was like, was Starfield actually announced for it? But anyway, I think that will allow them to, that statement to remain true, because technically it's playable on Xbox. It's just it's just not the way you probably want it to.
And they only committed that to the first 2 years from memory. Because I remember,
was it 2 years, was it? Okay.
I believe it was 2 years, and I remember, what's his name, Jim Ryan? I always want to say Jim Ryan, or what's the other version? Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan's the 24 guy.
CIA.
But I think Jim Ryan was like having a go. It's kind of like, well, we want next-gen games on the next-gen console. And then they reverted back because of the chip shortage, and started to port their games back to the PS4. But I get that it's like a really interesting strategic move, but for someone who's like pretty casual to Xbox now, having 0 games, like there's 0 compelling reasons for me to go. Like there is like 0 reason why I should get a Series X, right? I've got a PC that's kind of the equivalent, and I've got a PS5.
If you have a PC, there's 0 reason. Yeah.
No, I'm saying for me personally, right?
Yep.
But I find like that's a really weird position to be in. And you know, the other thing I was going to say, Swinny, is like, it does like, I'm kind of amazed at the marketing job that Xbox have done, because when you kind of go like look at the tail of the tape, they totally botched the Halo Infinite launch. Like,
Yeah, of course.
I genuinely wanted to play the multiplayer of that game, and it's so buggy. And you know, for the folks that actually can play it and it works, there's just no content. Like, you know, it's taken forever for the new season to come out, and it's pretty light on content still. And then the other one is I wanted to play co-op, and then they came out like only recently, but it's kind of like the buzz is already over. So
Has it actually come out already?
I thought it had. Maybe I'm wrong. So,
I would still enjoy the co-op
I think they were
experience.
saying it was coming soon.
oh my
I don't know
god!
if
So it's still not out.
I don't know. I don't want to.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's August. That's
Yeah.
that's insane, man.
Damn.
Yeah.
I must have been thinking about something else that it was doing. That's just so bad, man.
What I said before about like that, I wasn't surprised. It doesn't mean that. Look, obviously, it's super disappointing. Like
Yeah.
any new next generation should have games that really, really make you go, "I need that new console." I'm very happy I upgraded because
Yeah.
there's games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Cyberpunk and Tales of Arise that run so much better on these new consoles. But there's nothing like, you know, a Ratchet and Clank, a Returnal, you know, like any of those. There's nothing like those kind of games.
Even Days Gone that I've been playing, you know, it's an exclusive for PlayStation, obviously. Well, it's on PC now as well, but so yeah, I guess that equation's a bit the same, isn't it?
Well, yeah,
but for
you
a
can play
while
that-
it wasn't, you know.
No,
for-
but you can play that on your PS4. What I'm saying is there's nothing you can only play on an Xbox,
no.
even from a console standpoint.
Yeah,
You know,
this is
Xbox Series
weird.
X.
There are decent games on the PS5 that you can only play on a PS5, and there's no
Yeah.
other place to play it. Like Ratchet and Clank, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's a decent game. And Returnal, I really want to get into that. Decent game. Demon's Souls, still, it's the only place you can play that remake. Awesome remake. So, I mean, that's just a short list of it. It's, I don't know, it's really weird. I find like I don't understand what Xbox is doing apart from just trying to get their shit together in terms of like get a release schedule of quality games. But like I keep saying this, they have not demonstrated they can do that. Like Bungie leaving Halo, the Halo games have like dropped in quality. It's just like, I don't know. I'm still waiting to see like the pipeline of games coming from them that are decent. I hope they don't infect other studios like id and stuff like that who are on a really good roll. So yeah, but look, like just on Starfield, like I'd much rather them delay it. Like I feel like it's not enough of a delay. Like
It depends on what.
I don't. Yeah,
the
how long
reasons
they've already
of-
cooked
don't
it
know.
for as well.
yeah, but
Because
like
it might have been in the oven for a while.
kind of like 6 month delay is not very long, right?
Well,
Well, it's
we don't know 6 months. We know
Yeah.
it could be up to 6 months. So
Yeah.
like, there's a very good chance it'll probably be March, April.
But I mean, when
or
was the
May,
last
you know?
major game they did? It's been years.
Is it
since-
Fallout 4?
No, so like Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online are the two games.
But they
that
didn't make those
yeah.
games.
Bethesda.
Bethesda Game Studios, like the Todd Howard part of it, wasn't.
Oh well,
those
that's still.
studios.
But I'm still saying that's still Bethesda to me. Like breaking it up on teams within Bethesda, like it's still Bethesda to me. If you want to say Todd Howard, then maybe it's Fallout 4. I don't know. I don't know what his involvement was of Fallout 76. But if you're talking like single player AAA tentpole titles, and Fallout 4 definitely was the last game from that.
And how long ago was that? That was like monster time ago, right?
Yeah.
that's been a while.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's crazy. Anyway, like I was really looking forward to it late in the year. Obviously, this just pretty much means Elden Ring is going to be game of the year. Like that's going to be one of the most undisputed game of the years. I mean, what else is going to threaten it? Swinny?
Maybe, who knows? Like maybe Final Fantasy 16 will come out this year, and
Maybe that's
be
yeah,
awesome. We don't
that
know.
Could be,
So
that could be. That could be.
I just want to say as well that look, they've got their showcase in next month. There's a good chance that they could say, okay, this is, you know, they desperately need a game for the holidays, because even like Redfall getting delayed, we didn't touch on that. that's not the game that is going to move the needle at all. As much as I like Arcane, they need something for the holidays. So we'll see if they come to the come with it.
And you also wonder, are they just going to try to buy something or like buy some exclusivity for Game Pass, right? Like some game that's on the fence or something.
They'll probably do that anyway, but you're right. They'll probably throw more money at that than they'd planned. So.
You think they would, right? And just to do the early hype, so that showcase, that Xbox showcase, will be streaming that live reaction, right, Swinny?
Yep.
Like 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning.
Nerds.
Oh, yes. Sorry, we're passionate about gaming, Mike. Apologies.
To me, that's my favorite event of the year. So I wouldn't miss that. So
I think my favorite event is now the Game Awards, just because it's like so cringy and funny, and like there are good announcements every year. So, all right,
and whatever Nintendo does in June as well.
Yeah, like their directs are the best. Even when it goes bad, it's quite funny. All right. After months of speculation, EA Sports are finally ditching the FIFA brand. Rumors began circulating back in October 2021, with both sides making.
Sorry. It was October. Sorry, I was getting confused there. Yeah. I was thinking, I was saying 22? It's not October 22 yet, you idiot.
No, making so with both sides making public statements soon after that they were negotiating their contract. EA CEO and Australian Andrew Wilson stated back then that the FIFA license had been an impediment to their ambitions for the series, and that, quote, FIFA is just the name on the box.
That mudslinging back then. We didn't really talk about that outside of 1min, but oh man, that is at that point you're like, they are not going forward with this.
Well, they were FIFA. So I've heard other podcasts who went way deeper on this stuff, and they had on good authority that FIFA were basically asking for a lot more money. And I think EA kind of fairly enough, like if I was putting myself in EA shoes, it's like you were literally giving us nothing. And also they didn't allow them to do a bunch of stuff that they potentially wanted to do because for whatever reason. FIFA is a super corrupt organization. Like to have an organization that's more corrupt than EA is like amazing, right? But yeah, so now it's official. Beginning 2023, EA Sports are rebranding their soccer/football series to, quote, EA Sports FC.
Good name, I think. Good
meaning
name.
football club. I think that's good.
Yeah.
So still
Obvious choice, but good.
They'll still release the next 2022 FIFA title, which I believe is also the World Cup title, which, it's a little bit more glitzy. But yeah, boys, this is pretty interesting. Do you think, Swinny?
It is. Like that 30 years is wild. Like I remember playing FIFA 94 on the SNES. Like that's crazy. Like that's how much of an
that's the one I was thinking about in the intro. Yeah.
So I'd say they've had a good run because obviously they're one of the biggest games in the industry. But I don't know. Like the fact that we're about to get into it, the people that are into FIFA games, like, and maybe the more casual people will be like, "Oh, when's the next FIFA coming out?"
Yeah,
and they'll be like EA Sports FC, and then potentially another game that's called FIFA. So it's like, oh, what is going to happen there? It's going to be interesting.
So, just on that, and I'll use this example because I think there's 3 games that I can think of that fall into this category: Madden, FIFA, and Call of Duty. That people, I go to game stores all the time. And it's crazy. I even overheard it the other day that someone was like, hey, I got to get that FIFA game, right? And I think Madden's not as popular. We're in Australia. So really here it's FIFA and Call of Duty. In my opinion, that they're the 2 big game franchises. Just people walk in like a mum goes, I got to go get Call of Duty. And they're just like, oh, here's the latest one, Vanguard. Go take it, right? Same as FIFA. And you look at Call of Duty and the fact that, the Black Ops series, it's like, pretty much its own distinct series, but they'll still keep the Call of Duty title. So it's like Call of Duty : Black Ops 4 : blah, blah, blah. Which, any other series, you just split it off. But that Call of Duty name's so powerful that I kind of look at this and go, well, they're removing FIFA. It's like, yeah, how much sales are they going to lose? Like,
they'll lose some, but at the same time,
a lot, man, not some.
The amount of money that FIFA are asking for. You know what they should have done to be clever about this? They should have, instead of calling it EA Sports FC, they should have called it EA Sports the acronym FIFA. So like
You
football
idiot.
something.
Oh, yeah. Get away with that one.
So just going back to their licensing, so with EA Sports FC licensing, quote, our unique licensing portfolio of more than 19,000 plus players, 700 plus teams, 100 plus stadiums, and 30 leagues will still all be there.
So how does that work? So I'm not huge into soccer, aka football. How does the licensing thing? So what exactly is the FIFA thing? Is it just a name, literally? Do they still have direct license with all the different football clubs? Are they still allowed to use all
Yeah.
the player names?
So soccer's
that
crazy, right? FIFA is the international body. So I don't believe you could ever say the World Cup. So they won't have like EA Sports FC World Cup or something like that, right?
Okay.
That's it's same as Super Bowl. Like the Super Bowl is like a highly like protected name. Even like some shows don't even use the word Super Bowl because they can get like taken down by the NFL. It's crazy.
They use Superb Owl.
Yeah, the Superb Owl or the big game. They go the big game.
The big game. Okay,
It's crazy, right? So I think they're going to lose all of that stuff. But you're right, like that, and that's their contention that it's well, what are you giving us? Because a lot of the leagues they do individual deals with them. So you see that with what's Konami's football game, Swinny? I can't remember because they keep changing the name of it.
It used to be called Pro Evo, but
that's
I
right.
can't remember what they renamed. All I know is the last
It's
one shit the
eFootball.
bed.
It's called eFootball.
Yeah, it completely shit the bed. That's what it was.
Yeah, but it is picking up. So that game is like top 3 most downloaded games in Europe. Like they've actually kept improving it. So like, you know, and we'll go on to like what FIFA's doing, which I think is awesome. Like how they've kind of like called it out. So FIFA are like, we're going to keep producing FIFA branded games without EA. So the president, Gianni Infantino, insisted that only games carrying the official FIFA license would be quote unquote credible. And that quote, I can assure you that the only authentic, real game that has the FIFA name will be the best one available for gamers and football fans, end quote. Quite a big claim. So yeah, they're in
Gianni.
discussions with like, you know, other folks. You'd think the first call they're going to make is with Konami, right?
Or 2K.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Probably,
2K to
yeah.
me, the ones that like Konami, obviously they have that. They already have that property.
Yeah.
But I think 2K would just be like, we need to get on this. You know, like
Oh, definitely. Because I mean, I don't know. I'm sure Gianni must have done some research on this, but
I'm sure it did.
creating a football game from scratch isn't that easy. Like this is 30 years worth of development on this particular series. It's a lot of technology that goes into this, a lot of money that's gone into actually making the game what it is. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be as easy for a new player just to come in and quickly do a really good game,
Well-
unless it's someone like 2K that's got the experience.
Well, Mike, apparently they already have, according to him, multiple non-simulation FIFA games
Non-simulation, right?
already under production and will launch Q3 this year. Which I'm like, how
that's
is
quick.
that? How
Mobile
is that?
games.
that
I don't
thing?
know. What the hell are they?
Maybe it's
I'm
mobile.
curious now. I'm really
Maybe.
curious.
Like
I think-
how,
Action games.
that's
I,
just
I think that was
crazy.
a separate deal
Wii
because that's
Sports
what the
reskinned.
that's what the NFL have done recently. Like they're
Yeah.
starting to make arcade games, and same as NBA. NBA with the Trailblazers in that space by making more cartoony, not like arcadey
Yeah.
NBA games. Like of recent times, I'm not talking about like the NBA jams of the world, but I agree with Mike. I feel like I honestly think Konami is the only place that could execute and not completely like flop. And almost so much like I'll say this statement. I feel like they almost need to go to Konami because Pro Evo soccer, it was very highly regarded. And a lot of people who play these football games, I don't play them. They actually like Pro Evo more than FIFA. It's just FIFA's got the people, the brand, the energy and the momentum behind it. So like if I was these dudes, and these guys are crazy, these FIFA guys, right? Because like, they're on a gravy train, right? Just getting licensing money for doing nothing. And then they gave it up. It's insane. But I feel like they need to go to Konami and go, look, we need to dust off the last version of Pro Evo and pump in like $100 million to get this up and running. Because I feel like if they can release a game that's super competent, like FIFA 23, people will go, maybe I'm just going to stay with FIFA. I feel like they've got one shot to do that.
Well, FIFA 23 will be the EA game that's releasing this year, potentially. Well, you said it might be World Cup,
I mean
but
24
yeah.
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I think they have an opportunity to do that. But for me, only think they have one shot to do that. And you know what? I want to ask a question.
Agree.
On PlayStation Plus, it was a surprise, but FIFA 22 went on as a free game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this got
Yeah,
something
grabbed
to
it.
do with it? Like they've like tried to get a free game on there and they'll like maybe try to use it as a vehicle in the future to advertise EA Sports FC.
No idea. I don't know if previous EA Sports games have been on PS Plus or anything. So.
Swear for
Some,
it, 'cause it's
but not-
for
not-
the
not
latest
consistently.
game to be on there. That's
Yeah.
the crazy part. When I saw that, I was shocked. I'm thinking, what? They're giving the latest, greatest in the series. Obviously, the catch being that you're going to spend money on microtransactions because it's what they're infamous
Sure.
for. But still, a free game.
But they
That's the
haven't done it
latest
like
one.
this early. So I think it was happened one time before with maybe NBA or something like that. But yeah, this one was surprising. And I was thinking it's got to be something to do with this deal because it's EA as a publisher, like their decision. So yeah, look, I'm going to be fascinated to see how that falls out because there's some big dollars on the line there. All right. The saga of the Duke Nukem Forever has had an encore this week with the 2001 prototype of the game leaking online. As you may see... Oh, wait, this is not the right one.
Well, that's also having a development saga of its own, Skull and
That
Bones.
is an
someone's put the wrong number in here.
Gameplay.
So, and by the way, with this B-roll, if you're watching YouTube, I had to heavily edit this because there was some very naughty B-roll that
Naughty bits.
would potentially take down our channel. So this game was in development hell for 14 years at 3D Realms with multiple overhauls and game engines. Eventually, Gearbox Software purchased the IP and finished the game in 2011 with an overwhelming reaction of being disappointment. It didn't even make our 2011 Game of Some Other Year 26 game shortlist. I mean, that's the most damning.
26 games, and I actually listened back, and we spent all of about 10 seconds debating. We're like, Duke Nukem Forever?
Nah.
Nah. And look, I actually don't think Duke Nukem Forever is as bad as most people think,
No,
but
it
that
wasn't
is pretty.
that bad.
That's pretty damning. It's also testament to how good 2011 was. But.
Yeah, well, 20,
It's about as
2011
bad as the
so-
gun that's in the B-roll right now. It's useless.
The prototype of this game was from the 2001 build of the game, a version heavily promoted in the popular trailer at E2 2001.
Oh.
The build contained many unfinished but playable levels, including locations features that would be included in the final 2011 game.
What are you reading? It says E3. What are you reading?
Yeah, right.
I was thinking to myself, wow, this is so old. E3 was known as E2 back then. Damn. Tell you what, for a 2001 game, that didn't look too bad. I mean, clearly
You
it's not
reckon?
finished. Well, it's not. You got to look back at 2001, man. 2001, that was a long time ago, 20 years ago.
So this was
It looks-
just before Halo, basically. Like that's the kind of era we're talking.
To me, that looks
So-
better than Halo. That's the kind of.
Well,
that's
it's on
the kind of thing I was
PC,
saying.
first
I know
of
it's on
all.
PC.
I don't
and
know
stuff
about
as well.
that. Calm
But
down, dude.
honestly,
Stand down. Stand down.
It's weird. So I could have seen that as being something that they could have polished. It clearly wasn't finished. There was a lot of stuff they're missing, but at the same time, it was pretty late in its development. If you look at the fact that it had a lot of stuff in there already, that I'm surprised they didn't continue going down that path. It didn't look that bad. You know what I mean?
They did continue going down that path for another 10 years. So,
Yeah, but I
like,
mean-
it's crazy, like, because there's different... Sorry, I know you're about to probably say something else, but I'll just say, like, there's different points in time where Duke has kind of been... Duke Nukem Forever was, like, a different thing. And this was, like, the midpoint of that. There was, like, an earlier version in, like, before, I think it was, like, 99 or 2000 something. And then there was one later on. But this is the one that most people remember, so...
Well, this is I feel, having seen the entire footage now of the leaked stuff, that, you know, a bit more polish, another, not even a year maybe, because back in those days I reckon another 6 months, a year tops, and there would have been a solid, fully finished game. So it's interesting that they didn't go ahead to do it.
Yeah, I've watched quite a bit of footage over the last few days of this. I actually did track it down, but I didn't have time to try. There was an error to get it to run, so I didn't have time to try to resolve that. But it it's interesting how much they actually did retain in the Gearbox version, like the fact that you start in like Duke's penthouse and with all the like monuments to himself, and then you go into a casino. The fact that it's got the ego meter, you know, that you and in Duke Nukem in the 2011 one, it's like you level that out by like lifting weights and things like that. So it's interesting to see. It's such a weird microcosm of like the gaming industry, how this has gone. It's like, you know, it's like what could have gone wrong went wrong, and the fact that the end result was still something that people just weren't happy with is just, it's so bizarre. It's so interesting.
I do tend to agree with Mike though, and maybe it wasn't like the perfect game, but at some point, I don't know, and maybe this is just the way my brain is wired, you sort of just have to get things out there at some point, and almost just like draw a line in the sand and just go, okay, well, you know, this is going to force us to shape things down or change things. Because yeah, what was it, like 14 years? Like that's just insane.
Yeah.
Like we're so old.
And
We
it
played
flopped.
Duke Nukem 3D in like high school, and it was like we were out of uni by the time the Duke Nukem Forever came out. It's insane to think of it like that.
I wasn't allowed to use the computers in high school. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
For 6 months because I had a copy of the game. So there was already a copy on some of the computers in the computer room.
I think I
Some of
installed
them.
it.
And then, so must have been here. And then I brought the disc, and some year 10s took the disc off me, started installing it on a bunch of different machines, traced it back to me, because I didn't even do it. I just had the disc. And yeah, I was banned from using the computers for 6 months.
So
Then I went on to get a computer science degree just to prove, Mr. Nero, you fuckhead, wrong.
hey, he was a good guy. Hey, you're also doxing us.
No, you
You're
wasn't.
doxing us by saying that. I'll have to scramble to like delete this
He
stream.
banned me from going on computers in a bloody computer class for 6 months.
Remember,
That's a shit teacher.
He always had that shirt. What was it? The Stussy shirt or
I thought he had a Nike.
douchebag.
I thought he had a Nike shirt.
a
but maybe
Nike
I'm wrong.
shirt, and he had like the sports car, but like the poor man's sports car. It was awesome.
No, that sports car will be worth a lot now.
Yeah,
but
no,
anyway.
true. So one thing that has happened with this leak coming out, it has stirred up some old wounds. So I've actually, does it come up? Yeah, cool. We've got it coming up. So first off, how do you say this guy's name? Greg Broussard.
George.
Oh, what did I say? Greg.
Greg.
I probably said his
think
last name right, but not his first name.
I think it's Broussard. I've always
Broussard,
said
yeah.
Broussard.
Video game vet, co-founded the original 3D Realms and Apogee. Do you say Apogee or Pogee?
We went through this in our RPG segment. Let's not retread.
I really can't
old
remember.
wound.
He made Duke Nukem 3D and more likes to draw, blah, blah, blah. So he's like, quote, in his tweet, yes, the leak looks real. No, I'm not really interested in talking about it or retreading a painful past. You should heavily temper expectations. There is no real game to play, just a smattering of barely populated test levels. I have no knowledge who leaked this.
Man, this was pretty bloody good for barely populated test levels, is all I can say. It wasn't that bad.
And
I was impressed.
All of the commentary, like and we're not going to go through them because it's not like filtered, but like very negative, like commentary back to him. Like people are very much of the opinion they deserve something. Right? It's like they deserve the leak and get to see someone's like draft work.
They got a game that got released, you know, like that is all, like, not that people even deserve that, but a game was released. Sure, it's not the one that people wanted in 2001, but come on.
Yeah. And I think it's like these fans have it in their head of like a game that never existed really. But like it's as if it's there somewhere. It was just hidden.
Yeah, and everything in that E3 trailer was essentially in this test build, but it was just obviously very heavily curated, you know, just like all kind of E3 stuff is. You know?
And we're becoming a bit of a tea spilling channel, but it then provoked Scott Miller, who Scott Miller to me is always the guy that I think of if I think of like Apogee and 3D Realms. I think he's like names blasted over everything and he's still like related to it. So he released a blog post about this. Should I read this out, Swinny? Rapidly?
Yeah, I'll just say he's the other 3D Realms co-founder.
Yeah.
George Broussard is the other, like they're the two halves. So
The two key guys. So, quote, and this is from his blog post titled "The Truth About Duke Nukem Forever." So, Looks like someone has leaked a build of Duke Nukem Forever from 2001. Anyone expecting much of a playable game will be disappointed. The game's brilliant trailer from the period definitely overrepresented what was actually playable in the game. By the way, I have no idea who leaked the build or how they obtained it. Interesting they both said that, but parking that. Duke Nukem Forever is the game that destroyed 3D Realms and ended up getting the company sold to an investor in Denmark, where it's still based. While our games like Max Payne and Prey were keeping the company afloat, Duke Nukem Forever was a constant money pit for the company and eventually killed the original 3D Realms / Apogee. In my opinion, while I was not part of the Duke Nukem Forever project, as a company owner, I have some good insights into the issues with the game's development. Number one, we were always understaffed by at least 50%. Number two, we did not have a good development roadmap, at least I never saw one. And instead, the project had ad-libbed too much. And number three, because of the game's slow development, when new 3D technology became available, the project, in effect, rebooted to make use of the newest tech, causing massive delays over and over. I recognize that the Duke Nukem Forever was in deep trouble back in 2004 and tried to get the entire game developed by a more experienced studio, Digital Extremes, now famous for Warframe. The owner was eager to take over Duke Nukem Forever from us and even had the blessing of our publisher at the time, Take-Two. But this idea was shot down internally. It turned out to be a fatal suicide shot. In the end, we worked out a deal to somehow barely save the project with Gearbox Software and basically handed over the future of the Duke brand to them and the idea that they'd finish the game. A year or so later, it was released. It's a very sad story, no matter how you look at it. It brought 3D Realms to its knees. All of our development teams left or was released, and the 3D Realms name is now owned by someone with no connection to our past. I do hope that Gearbox can resurrect Duke Nukem at some point. It seems the obvious move would be to recreate Duke Nukem 3D using Unreal 5, and if it does well, then start making more Duke adventures while also expanding the universe with new characters. Scott Miller, Apogee founder.
I think it sounds like a little pitch to Gearbox in that last line there.
But it's also, I do love the
blue
deflection.
point.
He's like, he did nothing wrong. Effectively, you go through the whole thing.
I just had to do a hat swap. I was going to do it before the segment to my Duke Nukem Forever hat.
Nice.
Which I do wear on the show, but I'm like, why am I not wearing it for this segment?
Yeah.
Shake it, baby.
So what did you think of this blog post, Swinny?
I mean, look, it's very, like, I read both takes and both I can kind of, like, sympathize with in a way because we don't know everything that happened and there's so much bad blood, as we'll get to George's response to this in a second, that it's like surely some shit went down that is probably both sides are partially to blame. But I mean, look, if just, you know, by all accounts from, I remember even back all the way back in like that period of time, you were hearing them constantly moving to new engines, constantly adding new stuff and scope creep and all this stuff that basically just kept blowing the game out. And someone unfortunately had to make that hard decision, and I think that was Scott Miller's choice to make. So,
well, yeah, and look, this is a funny blog post when you read through it, because it's like he is the company owner and he was the company founder. He could have easily made these calls at any point, and you know, I've worked on lots of things where it hasn't gone that well, but having something run for like 14 years and then kind of put your hands up and go, well, nothing's my fault here. But we'll go into George Broussard's response on Twitter. So, you know, this posted as an Apogee Entertainment tweet, and he's replied to the tweet, quote, "Scott's a clueless narcissist whose actions are what led to the Gearbox suits/friction that led us to losing 3D Realms and the Duke IP. Mind-blowing the nonsense he spews. Not surprising due to his depth of manipulation and narcissism. Least I've had the class to keep thoughts private." Damn.
Ouch.
But my response to that is, well, you did respond, you know, like, so
Your thoughts are not
that
private.
it's like, you know, you did say something, so it's not like you were completely silent about it. But who knows? Look, I don't know.
First tweet that he had.
Yeah. So he did mention it, but Look, I don't know what to think of this. It's just terribly entertaining stuff, really.
You love the tea spilling.
I love it. Because obviously it's not great to have, conflict, but at the same time, I love the whole story of Duke Nukem Forever is just so amazing. And, I don't know, maybe it's already been written about, but would make the most amazing book.
Yeah, we
It
don't
would
get.
just be incredible.
We kind of don't get enough of that, right, in gaming. Like, you've got Jason Schreier writing some books, but that's where he's been allowed to actually write those books. Like, we don't usually get Tales unless people are okay with it. Like, stuff like this would be awesome to hear about, like, what the hell's going on, like, with that. Or
Or a Netflix series, please. I'd love to see them
Yeah.
two in a ring fighting it out. Do you guys? So on a serious note, do you think that there is a chance that the Duke Nukem franchise slash brand will come back, or do you think it's just the kind of character that just doesn't work anymore in this day and age?
no, I think so. I'd buy the
Kill it.
IP if I could. I think there's value in it.
So you think there'll be a good game coming out?
Oh, I'm not sure about that. That's a different
With-
question.
Yeah. Look, Duke Nukem, regardless of how you kind of approach it, like it's owned by Gearbox, and like look at the stuff Gearbox has done in the past. Like they definitely are all over the crass humor and things like that. I just
That's a
think
good
that
point, yeah. I feel like
they're
yeah.
probably just leaving enough time from Duke Nukem Forever. But I mean, Duke Nukem's cropped up like he was in Bulletstorm. There was like a version of Bulletstorm that they did where he was a playable character and stuff. I think he was playable. He was a character at least. So they've toyed around with the idea. But we do talk about, and this is what you were mentioning, it's like, oh, how would it be? And the whole like self-aware thing, I think, everyone says that idea. I almost think if you take away, and I know it's important to the older games, or it's not important, but it's like a big part of Duke. If you take away the just absolute misogyny part of it, and like the horrible depictions of women and stuff, I think Duke can still work if you take that stuff out in modern day. So
Yeah. But just on that, like, I love history, and you go through even recent history, last 100 years, you always have ebbs and flows, like each decade of like more conservatism, more liberalism, more conservatism. Like, I think we get very stuck in, oh, this is the way it's going to be forever. And I'm telling you right now, it's not. Like, we are very hard on a certain pendulum now of ultra PC-ness. And I feel like it's going to swing back. It's inevitable it's going to swing back. And it's probably going to swing back hard. And then I think games like Duke Nukem are like so perfectly poised to capitalize on it. It's almost like, fuck you. Like, here's this game and it's ultra misogynistic and ridiculous and all that kind of stuff. And it will blow up.
That's true.
And it won't be like the
Could well
biggest
happen,
game,
yeah.
but, there'll be a segment of the population that will love that kind of stuff. And I think, you can do that stuff well in a comedic way. Like, it's also like, what's the nature of why you're doing it? And, how much do you labor certain things and how creepy you are and all that kind of stuff. I think it matters heaps. But I think, yeah, right now, you'd make a really tame version of Duke, which I think would be kind of shit. But I think there will be a time in the next, who knows, like, it's hard to predict the timing. But I think, not too far away, there'll be a time where we swing back the other way a little bit and get over this ultra ridiculous kind of behavior that everyone's in from a PC perspective. But all right, let's get into our last bit of news for Swinny. In their recent earnings report, Ubisoft have revealed and updated release schedules for some big upcoming titles, as well as an unexpected surprise that we revealed a little bit earlier if you're watching the B-roll footage.
How hard is your boner, Swinny?
Skull and Bones. So the pirate,
don't say like that, Mike. That's not right.
the pirate,
That was the joke, huh? Your boner, skull and bones.
Skull and Boners. The pirate ship warfare game was announced 5 years ago at E3 2017 and has been in development hell for nearly a decade. It has been publicly delayed at least 4 times. It's still on track to release this fiscal year, ending March 2023. It's been recently rated in South Korea, and there's been 6 minutes of gameplay footage leaked online 2 weeks ago. Swinny, why have they not released this game? It's strange.
Swinny, why?
Well, I don't know exactly why, but the reason why I want to talk about this is because it's been a while since we talked about Skull and
Been a
Bones.
while.
It was quite a popular clip, so I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about Skull and Bones again. Maybe we'll get some views. No,
Shameless.
People are super down on this game. I still have some hope that it will actually be a fun game to play. Now, it will be monetized to all hell and back. I know it's going to be horrible from that standpoint because
Oh, for sure.
it's just like the perfect game to do it. It's like very multiplayer focused as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love the ship combat in Assassin's Creed games. This is obviously modeled on it. It's basically exactly like it. And so I still hold out some hope, but geez, this game has just been through so much. And we, by all accounts, we're finally going to get it in the next 6 months. But look, who knows? They've already done all those delays before. So, but we did mention that this footage leaked in one Min For The Swin, but obviously that just zooms past. It's crazy how much footage has leaked from this game. It's like that's been all the footage we've essentially seen since the launch trailer. It's just all been leaked footage.
But what's strange about this game is that they actually showcased it around the world. So, I listened to a bunch of podcasts, and it's amazing how many people have played this game, but like back in 2017. So, you're talking about like, what, 5 years ago now? And the resounding, response from everyone is like I wasn't like, oh, this is the greatest game ever, but it seemed very decent. And it was like, okay, this is like a year away, this game. And it just never came out. And it's very odd to me, like, what's going on here. Like, why they didn't push it out. Especially with Sea of Thieves, like, doing so well. Like, that game is, like, a bit of a cult underground hit. Like, people don't realize how big that game is. Like, it's not my thing, Sea of Thieves, but it's a pretty big game.
And the thing is as well that, like, as I said, everybody always shits on this game, but people generally like that gameplay in the Assassin's Creed games. So,
yes.
it's like, I just don't understand it. I just think it's an easy punching bag.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Well, no, I
target
think,
for people.
I think. So for someone like me, for example, game looks great and everything, but when you look at Sea of Thieves, it is a component of the game. When you look at Assassin's Creed, it's just a component of the game. Whereas if this is all the game is, I don't know. I could see it kind of working for some people, getting it a little thin pretty quickly for a bunch of other people. I liked it in Assassin's Creed because it was, something you did as part of the bigger game, but then you could go and actually play the Assassin's Creed game, so to speak. So it was an awesome little intermission, so to speak, and it was cool just to explore bigger areas and stuff like that. But making a full game out of it, oh man, I don't know. Time will tell. It's certainly something that I would like to dabble in, but guaranteed it's not something that would capture my attention long enough.
But you got to
As a
remember,
standalone thing.
those games didn't have multiplayer, and that is the angle.
Yeah, of
with
course,
this.
that's the biggest difference here. But what I'm saying is for something like the other game we talked about, it's you get to actually play as a first person. You get to actually do some ship combat. There's a bit of a mix. I think it's kind of cooler. Whereas with this, it's purely ships, and I don't know. I don't know how long that's gonna keep people entertained for.
I don't know what mystery game you were talking about.
Sea of
I just
Thieves.
had
You
a
couldn't
mind
remember
blank.
the
Sea of
name.
Thieves.
Okay.
I had a bit of a mind blank.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was weird because you said Sea of
I can
Thieves. That's why-
see how that works better because of the mix in gameplay. If this had a bit of that as well, then I could see it being way more successful.
Is this
But
free to
just
play,
ship
Swinny?
combat, I don't know.
So it's not been announced as free to play.
Okay.
Now, when we talked about this a while back, that was also around the time that Ubisoft were talking about free to play, and that they were saying that they're working on free to play titles like that new Division title and
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yep. Successful titles.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do launch this as free to play.
Okay.
Because essentially, I think For Honor's gone free to play now. I think it has.
No idea. I'm not very across Ubisoft games, but I am
Yeah.
across this Ubisoft game that I'm really excited about. A day one purchase for me, you may say. It's Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. So it was announced at E3 last year. I was very excited. I loved the first game, 100%ed it, and played the DLC, the Donkey Kong DLC. And as confirmed by both Ubisoft, so they said by the fiscal year, so that's March 2023, but also confirmed recently by Nintendo that this game will come out in 2022. So I feel like this might be a bit of a holiday game for Nintendo. I'm not sure what else is in their lineup, so I'm expecting this in like November at the latest, which I'll be really excited to play.
Considering this trailer that was almost a year ago now, like the game looked so far along back then.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think it's the Nintendo polish, and I really highly recommend people trying this game out. Like Mario Rabbids, the first game, is just very approachable and it's very cheap actually. Like for a, you know, it's not a Nintendo game, but it's, you know, almost like a pseudo Nintendo game. It's probably one of the cheapest Nintendo games you can get that I've seen. Like it's regularly discounted. You know, it's very easy to pick up and play. I like highly recommend it to people.
I own it 3 times and I've never even played the bloody thing.
Yeah, I'd recommend people jump on it, but I'm really looking forward to this one. A slightly different game, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. So this was announced 4 years ago in March 2017. The trailer was shown first at E3 last year, and it's still on track for release in March 2023, somewhat coinciding with Avatar 2 coming out at the cinemas at the end of the year in December 2022, which shocks me that that's actually happening.
Released by March. I just wanted to. I'm like,
Sure.
How many different ways can I say by the end of fiscal year? So I reword it different ways. But why haven't we seen gameplay of this game yet?
I genuinely do not understand Avatar. Like, we all watched Avatar when it came out in 2009. Am I right? Or 7? 9 or 7? 9.
Can't remember.
It's 2009. I'll bet some money on that. And like, it was kind of like, okay, that's a decent experience, I guess. It's like something different, but it's not. Have you watched Avatar again? I guess that's the question.
No.
No,
I want to watch it again because the new one, but yeah.
Yeah, look,
I haven't seen it for a while.
I wasn't a big fan at the time, but I was impressed by, because that was like the whole like the real big spike in 3D and IMAX and everything like that. And look, I'll check out the new one, but I'm keen to see what this game is like because Ubisoft massive, you know, the Division. I think that they seem like a really solid developer. I'm just the main reason I included it here is because, you know, they're all kind of the big 3 games I'm talking about for this schedule. But the fact that we just have not seen anything, I just don't understand. Maybe I'm guessing this next month is the time when we're going to see it.
But I know I don't want to labor it, but like Avatar, right? It's, to me, it's like the weirdest IP ever. And the fact that I can call it an IP when it's only had one movie is bizarre. Can I just ask you guys a quick question? So Avatar is still the highest grossing film of all time, not Avengers. So Avengers,
because I think it got a re-release.
Exactly, got a re-release in China, and it bumped off Avengers again. And Avatar's getting another re-release this year before Avatar 2, so it's gonna consolidate that spot. Can you guys tell me the name of one single character in Avatar?
Wasn't there a Sam, or was that the name?
No,
of the
that's the actor.
The actual actor. Bilal.
It's
No, I don't
amazing,
remember
isn't
any
it?
of them.
Like, it's the biggest grossing film of all time, and
It's quite fascinating, actually. Yeah.
you can't think of the name of one single character.
I knew that's the exact question you were going to ask, but it's just like
Let's find out, actually.
it's because like it's the same thing you always hear. It's like no one remembers Avatar outside of the fact that it's Fern Gully in 3D. You know, like that's basically the story.
Dancing with Wolves,
So.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or Dancing with Wolves,
Yeah, Pocahontas. Yeah, it's funny. And I just think there's like zero chance I'm going to go see Avatar 2. And like this game, I'm not going to get this game because it's Avatar. It's got to be a good game. It's almost, to me, it's almost a negative that it's Avatar in a way. Apart from the fact that I know about it, right? But yeah, anyway. And then the last game that Ubisoft, was it announced, or I guess, you know...
Well, it announced around the same time of their earnings report, which is just, this is the surprise I alluded to in the intro.
Oh, is this the surprise? I thought it was almost Skull and Bones. That the previously China exclusive Rabbids Adventure Party, so now it's going to be, well, that was what it was called in China, right? It's going to be called Rabbids Party of Legends, and it's getting a Western release next month. So it's coming on June 30th for PS4, Switch, Xbox One, and Stadia. Is that right?
Stadia?
Is that
I
right?
think Ubisoft,
Is that still a
feels
thing?
like it feels like they just have a contract that they can't get out of with Stadia.
Yeah, exactly. Is Stadia still a thing? Seriously.
The reason why this was a surprise, because did you guys know about that this game existed?
No,
Nope.
no. But you know how many Rabbids games there are, right?
I know, but this is a Journey to the West-themed Rabbids game. How did I never hear about this? Like, the fact that, like, the synopsis is, like, the Monkey King and his cohorts, Pixie, Sandy, and Tributaka, must retrace their steps in order to send themselves and the other Rabbids home again. Like, just the concept is awesome. I'm not a big fan of Rabbids, and, you know, I'll probably never play this game.
I'm not shocked.
But the
You're
fact
not-
that it
you're
was
not three.
it was a game that was actually developed in China as well. In
Oh,
one of
wow.
Ubisoft's, I can't remember the name of the studio, but it's just a weird thing. And I know we've had like exclusive consoles in different regions before that you hear about years later, and you know had the weird like GameCube, Panasonic Q, and all like these weird consoles that are just like very region specific. But this just like I was like, what the hell? This game, I just never knew this existed. It's just a real oddity to me.
And did it definitely come out on the Switch?
Yeah, it was only Switch.
Not the Wii.
No, it was Switch.
Okay. Interesting.
It's I don't know when it came out, but it's it's a Switch game.
Oh, wow. That's really
It's
weird.
actually like if you look it up, sometimes it's named Rabbids Adventure, sometimes the Rabbids Adventure Party. Obviously, it's a translation thing.
Yeah. Wow, okay.
But
that's
yeah,
weird.
yeah,
No,
it's,
interesting.
anyway.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. Obviously, it's rabbits are for kids. My kids love rabbits. Like I try to prevent
they're
them
funny.
from seeing
Yeah.
rabbits.
You wouldn't get this game for them? Well, you're horrible, man.
Dude, I've got so many games for them. I've got hundreds of games for
This
them.
is like they like Rabbids. This is perfect for them. Come
No,
on.
thank you. They can watch me play Mario and Rabbids. Actually, they're really because you know how I've got the Mario Kart AR game, Home Circuit. That's what it's called, like the real physical in life Mario Kart thing. My youngest now is calling that Ferrari. Like whenever he sees it, because like they're both obsessed about Ferraris. They love Ferraris. Like my eldest is like, I'm gonna get a Ferrari as my car. I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that, boy. All right, let's jump into our final segment. So we are wrapping up the news, and as always, we will get through all of this in 1 minute. And each week, Swinny has to add an extra word. He's smashing it, let's be real. Even with the stumbles last week, he still had multiple seconds under his belt. And eventually, when he fails, it will be turned over to a text-to-speech synthesizer. And we're going to go faster and faster and faster. And then back to Mike, and then finally back to Swinny.
Stumbles. One word. One single word, and you call it stumbles.
What's
It
the
was a
That
stumble?
is
stumble.
misrepresenting my performance, and I very much
I think
dislike that.
if you've got 1 minute and you stumble one time in that minute, that's what you're going to be remembered for.
It's not plural. It's single. Anyway,
All right, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go.
I don't want to do it this week. I'm all good.
Oh, okay.
I'm
What?
protesting. I'm
Let's
protesting.
end the show then. Let's end
no
the show.
no 1 min. I took all the time to write it all up, but that's it. Like stumbles has thrown me off.
I already botched the intro, that we might need to re-record the intro again. I'm going to talk to you guys after the show, but if you want to end it here, Swinny, I'll press the
All
the
right,
stop
let's do it. Let's do
button.
it.
I knew you wouldn't stand with that.
Sega's planning multiple remakes, remasters, and other new games in 2022. Genshin Impact developers MiHoYo have announced action RPG Zenless Zone Zero. Gata Roboto Studio Jointsoft announced Gumbrella for Switch and PC. Concept art for a new Silent Hill game set in England has been leaked on Twitter. The Dead Space remake is released in January 27 next year. EA has merged Codemaster Cheshire into Criterion to work on Need for Speed. Grading firm Wado is facing a lawsuit for allegedly manipulating the retro game market. Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards and a next gen 64 game coming to Switch Online. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl is getting 3 new DLC characters, including Rocco's Modern Life. Bandai Namco is shutting down mobile game Tales of Luminaria after only 8 months. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak Amiibo and Pro Controller Amiibo are available to order in Australia. The PlayStation 1 core has been officially released for the Mr. Retro device. The unofficial Zelda Ocarina of Time PC port now supports 60 frames per second. John Romero has announced pre-orders for his new book called Doom Guy. And finally, some PlayStation staff are reportedly unhappy with CEO Jim Ryan's fence-sitting company statement on abortion. Wow, I had way more time than I thought.
You're going real,
Yeah.
you're going hyper
You were
speed
going
on that one.
super fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck yeah, the Amiibo's going to take you down. Hell yeah.
Nah, that's no. There were multiple stumbles there. That's fine. You can call those stumbles. There's actually a couple of the stories I wouldn't mind chatting about a little bit.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I feel like the 1 min for the Swin is now becoming our wrap up of the news where we just bang on about everything.
Well, this week there was just lots of stories that maybe just weren't worth an entire segment.
Yeah.
Especially like as much as people don't, this is very behind the scenes, but a segment actually takes quite a bit of work to produce and put up the clips and stuff. So it's like we really have to have something meaty to say, I think, to make a segment. But look, for me, there's a couple of things. So first of all, the fact that we got that new game from MiHoYo announced, like Genshin Impact is just raking billions.
Oh, so much.
And this game, like the trailer, I don't know if you guys have seen it, actually looks really, really cool. It's I don't know if it's going to have the same impact as Genshin Impact.
I doubt
no
it.
pun intended.
Genshin Impact's still not even out on the Switch yet. So imagine when that comes out on the Switch, it's going to get another bump, man.
But this game looks really, really cool. And I know on our live reaction, we also, for the Nintendo Indie showcase, we talked about the fact that Gumbrella also looks really cool.
Yeah, we should have actually mentioned that at the start of the show. Maybe because I literally think we might need to record the start of the show again, and then
That's
I'll
fine.
patch it together. But we should mention, although now when I'm thinking about someone watching this in the future, as we mentioned at the start of the show, we did a live reaction to the... So go back and watch our live reaction to the Nintendo Indie
confusing.
showcase.
Can we
Time
just
paradox.
name the show no title? And
No,
just
that's lame. That's lame.
go with it.
The other couple of things I'll mention, and then you guys can obviously short talk.
We can conversate, right, Swinny?
Conversate was Bandai Namco shutting down Tales of Luminaria. So I've actually played that game. It's actually pretty good for a mobile game. I think it's actually like super high production values, and obviously I love the Tales games. But 8 months, like fucking, that's so shit for the people.
Yeah,
like
no.
they've disabled microtransactions now, but the people that played that, like that game actually has an unfinished story. That the idea was they had episodes over time, and they're just shutting that game down. It's not the first. They've had a Tales game they've shut down before, but 8 months, like that is fucking shit, man.
That's
play
mobile
someone
though,
else.
right? You can't trust mobile
Yeah.
games.
I
Like
know,
they
it's
people invest so much money in it and they're just like, fuck off. Like Nintendo, they're shutting down a whole bunch of mobile games, and it's like, wait, but people, if they spend a lot of money, like surely you'd allow them to just keep playing the game. Like, why don't they do that?
That's the thing. You literally
They
can't
haven't
play it
spent enough
anymore.
money.
It's like you can't play it anymore. And I know no one's probably going to cry too much about a lot of mobile games,
Yeah.
but this game's actually pretty good. And the whole thing about game preservation is just a shit show on mobile. You know, like
It must be painful being in a dev studio that you do mobile games, because it's just, it's a bit soulless, isn't it?
man, that's what I'm saying. Like this game, I'm no joke, is like super top notch graphically and everything. And as you're saying, like the work that people put into this, and it's just like fucking shelved.
See ya.
Fucking guy, and you can never even play it again, you know, unless they've got some weird build internally, you know.
Oh, well, tough shit.
Hey, you must be happy about Dead Space, Mike.
Yes, and also Silent Hill. Big
Well, that's
fan of
all
Silent Hill.
rumored
Played all of
and
them.
leaked
No.
Loved all of them. So
The reason I included Silent Hill, it got DMCA'd by Konami.
Yeah, it
so-
seems real. It seems real.
Yeah, like as soon as the DMCA is involved, I'm like, fuck it, it's going in 1 min. So
Yeah, I think my strategy would be I wouldn't DMCA stuff because I feel like it totally confirms it to people, especially when it's like, you know, Konami DMCA. It's like, okay, it's real, guys, it's real. The one thing that stuck out to me is Nickelodeon All Star Brawl, which I bought, yay, and they add 3 new DLC characters, or they're coming, and I checked the Steam, like how many people are on Steam playing this game. It's like 50. I was like, whoa, that's brutal. And look, I know that you always called this out, Swinny, and I give you credit, and I know a lot of people did, but the lack of voice acting in the game is so frustrating. And it just feels like that would be the biggest thing that they need to change in the game, rather than adding characters.
yeah, I mean, the biggest character I thought was missing was Rocco. So I'm glad they've added, and I think are these paid ones? I think
I'm not even sure.
because they did. I definitely didn't read anything about being free because they've added free characters already. But yeah, we talked to the fact that they were leaning based on like Hungry Box interviews and stuff. That they're like, watch this space for voice acting and just like hits, you know, like actual voices when you're hitting enemies and stuff. It just feels so artificial. I know it's like a cartoon game, but it doesn't feel like you need some life in it, you know?
Yeah, no, it's a super big shame. It does seem like it's going to be paid, like to get Rocco, which is fine. Like it's not even super expensive or anything. It's just like, yeah, I could imagine that their publisher's just like, look, no one's playing this game, no one's buying it. You're not going to get the voice rights at this stage. It's just kind of like lost momentum.
So, Mike, how about Weta facing the lawsuit? Huh?
Yeah, well, I've been following Carl. What's his surname?
Sorry, I'm laughing because
Jobst.
Well,
Jobst.
it's Wada, but you said Weta in our
Weta.
chat, which made
I
me
know.
laugh.
They're the
very
Lord
much.
of the Rings
Weta.
people. Lord of the Rings people.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Oh,
Carl
I
Jobst
actually
is,
went there. I
from
went to
Queensland.
the studios when I was in New Zealand.
Oh, really? You actually went to the Weta Studios? Why?
Well, the Weta cave thing that they have.
Oh, okay. Tourist attraction thing.
Yeah, good old Carl
Kinda.
Jobst. Hello,
Yeah,
legends.
Hello, legends.
Yeah, because I was following him, so that was quite interesting, actually.
Can I say, because you've just gone on like a random tangent now, but with Carl Jobst, did you guys watch his latest video when he came out and he's like, I'm a cheat. I've
love
cheated.
that so much, man.
You got to
That's so
understand,
funny.
I saw that when I was putting my kids to bed, right? And I was like, holy shit. Like, I'm like, hey, kid, shut up. I gotta watch this video, right?
Shut up, kid!
And I wasn't really like paying attention. I was like, this is crazy. He's like cheated. Like, this is the terrible for him, right? And then I started seeing the comments. I'm like, you dickhead. Because I didn't get to watch it all. But he's a funny guy.
Yeah, it's about him sending in like times via magazine to old gaming magazines, and that is our generation, man.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
the Total magazine, the Nintendo magazines, and all that Super Play, EGM.
Dude.
I miss gaming magazines. I've got a whole stack of them there. I should actually read them. I miss them.
Can I say something that would date me so badly, right? That I have a magazine right here, Nintendo Magazine System. So that was the official, it's like the Nintendo Power for Australia. And I've got like something where it has my name in it that I sent in how to get all the warp locations and all like the magic wands or whatever they're called in Super Mario Brothers 3. So like I sent that in as a tip, right?
Damn.
I'm like, how old am I? This is Super Mario Bros. This was like topical at the time it was out. That's like insane.
My biggest claim to magazine fame was I got my mail letter, whatever, posted in Hyper when I was like asking them for advice. Should I get a 64 for Zelda, Ocarina of Time? Or should I get a PlayStation for Final Fantasy VII?
Wow.
Tough one.
That could have changed your life, man. You could have been.
It could have completely
that could have been a
changed his
PS.
life, yeah.
That could have been the sacred symbols above your head.
And the funny thing is, I went on to hire a PlayStation Final Fantasy VII, and I played through disc 1 without a memory card, and then I don't know how I
Living
did it. I
dangerously.
just literally left the console on, which is hard at the time because it's not like I had my own TV. So yeah,
But that was like more common back then in the day. Like games just weren't structured in a way you could save sometimes. So you just like leave them on overnight even, and trying to explain to your parents why you had to leave a console overnight when they're just like, it's taking so much power, we can't afford even power as it is.
I also beat the first 2/3 of Metal Gear Solid because I didn't have a memory card, and when it came to swapping the disc, I pressed the wrong button, and it reset the game. And so I'm like, well, there goes my playthrough of Metal Gear Solid.
I don't know how to capture this, but Metal Gear Solid is like the first of this new, like these games are super common now. They're almost like blockbuster games, like Last of Us and stuff like that. I feel like that game was the first of that kind, where it was almost like more like a movie game, like action piece thing. That game was amazing when that came out. Like it's so hard to convey to people how mind blowing that game was.
Yeah.
That game holds up so hard. It's so fucking good. Like, I wish they did make a remake of that game so that people could experience the whole thing.
They will.
I was super excited. I know you guys don't care about this, but the Sunbreak amiibo finally was on order in Australia, and it's so fucking expensive. It's disgusting.
All right, just using like your hands as a scale, and maybe not, maybe just tell us because of the listeners, but tell me how excited you are for the Sunbreak amiibo versus the Sunbreak DLC expansion.
Well, the amiibo more, but
There we go. There we go.
I'm actually thinking of getting into the Sunbreak a DLC.
Okay.
Like, I really like Monster Hunter Rise, and because I'm always waiting for news about the amiibo, I'm watching all the DLC trailers and the news, and there's some cool stuff in Sunbreak and what they're doing there. So,
do you have to do all the post game stuff to be the right level for Sunbreak?
no. So you have to beat the game though. Which I think is interesting that they do that. Most DLCs aren't like these days. If it's like standalone DLCs, they won't do it like that because it's kind of like a standalone DLC. You're off in a different area completely, but I think it's really weird that they're doing it like that. Maybe that's just me, but because it's not like fully integrated in the game, if that makes sense. And the other one is that's massive news in the kind of retro community is that finally the PlayStation 1 core for the Mister has been officially released. It's been in beta and like the Patreon version for a long time now, but I'm like really close to buying a Mister because I feel like it's just such an easy option to hook into a TV. And it's now like they'll figure out this PlayStation 1 stuff. So it's going to be kind of like the best way to play PlayStation 1.
What's the game compatibility like? Because I know
terrible.
Yeah, because I know like that stuff's very different than, obviously actual emulation of things. But that's why I'm just wondering, are we talking like there's maybe a dozen games or is there... Because there's such a big library, the PlayStation.
Oh, no. Like, I think it's to a point where it's a super playable. Like, most games are playable.
Okay.
But you will have examples of just games not working at all. But I think it will very shortly overtake emulation, like the PlayStation 1 core. But the other emulators for like SNES and everything below SNES are really like probably the way to play those games. So,
man, do you guys remember Bleem?
Yeah.
I still remember actually having a Bleem disc and trying it on my PC. And I tried it on Final Fantasy VII because I actually owed Final Fantasy VII before I owned the PlayStation. So like, yes, I can finally play it. And it was not great. Bleem was not that good.
Well, we should explain. Bleem was like an emulator for the PlayStation. I think it was like around 2000, year 2000-ish.
Yeah, it caused a massive lawsuit that kind of
yeah.
changed the industry in many ways.
Totally.
And they had Bleemcast, which was the PlayStation version emulator for Dreamcast as well. So.
And the other one was like, the Nintendo 64 emulators that came out at that time, like Ultra HLE and things like that. And it's for me, it's never really advanced since then. Like Nintendo 64 is like a dog to try to emulate, as Nintendo found recently when they were like doing their own emulator. So yeah, like heaps of stories this week. Like again, like not really massive ones that we want to have a whole segment about, but.
And you know what? Kirby 64 might get me to actually sign up to this Nintendo 64 expansion because I've never played it. I've always wanted to, so I might finally bite the bullet on that one.
Yeah, I was thinking of playing it as well. There's actually a fair few good games now on the 64.
I'm looking forward to the Zelda games on there actually. That I missed out on in my childhood.
Okay. Yeah, like Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I really want to play those.
Well, speaking of which, as we had in the one min, like on the PC port, you can now play it at 60 frames per second. I'm kind of keen to check it out now that you can do that. I wonder how it will feel.
The annoying thing for me about obviously like it's great there's a port that people can play and stuff, but just when the news sites that report on this, they always like act. The way they word it is so clickbaity that it's they don't make it clear that it's obviously a fan thing. This is not Nintendo putting this freaking game, as you'd expect, but it's like it just feels a little
clickbaity.
Oh, totally clickbaity.
Speaking of clickbait, I guess this falls under clickbait. I was at Cash Converters a couple of weeks ago. Forgot to tell you guys, and they had a copy of Majora's Mask 3D, the 3DS version of it.
Yeah.
For I think it was $29 or something.
Oh, that's a good deal.
And I'm like, that is a freaking good deal. So I go to the guy, I want to grab that game, and he goes, no, it's only the box, it's only the case.
What?
There's no game in it. Damn it!
Well, they're just selling the box.
Just the box for $29. Yeah. Literally just the 3DS box for $29.
I understand like eBay and stuff.
The price, but yeah.
I understand eBay and stuff do that because people sometimes want just the boxes and things. But Cash Converters just selling a box is fucking dodgy as shit.
Just the box. I see if they still have it. I doubt anyone actually bought it.
That's so awesome, man.
By the way, that is not the platform we should probably play that game on, Mike. Just calling it out there. You'd be better playing it on Switch.
I'll play it on Switch.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, it's kind of controversial, that pick. I think the best way to actually play that game, Swinny, is potentially using a hacked 3DS and a patched version of Majora's Mask 3D. The people have patched the game.
Sheesh, okay.
And I think that is the pinnacle of playing that game. But there's a lot of hoops involved.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, it's because it's a bit disappointing what they did in that space. We don't have time to get into it. Wrapping up the show, Swinny, anything coming up in the future? I'm not even sure.
Well, I don't know. Well, we're getting soon, not for next week, but we're getting soon into the E3 season. So I think we'll start to see announcements of shows, but also potentially leaks coming through, like leaks with proof, because that generally always happens in the lead up to this period. Now, the fact that people aren't probably sharing assets as much as they would with an actual E3, maybe we might not see leaks, but generally, I'm pretty confident we'll probably start getting some big news next week. And if it's a quiet week, my Final Fantasy Battle System tier list will be there. But if it's a busy week, it'll be not happening. So
I think because it's about a month away from that traditional E3 spot.
yeah,
It's going to be fascinating because now E3 is not happening, and you've got the Summer Games Fest. They like, at least Jeff Keighley seems to be trying to compact it to June. Like, it actually says on the site, it's just June. I checked last year's version in the, what is it called? The Wayback Machine.
Wayback Machine.
And it was more like June, July, August. It was like friggin' all over the place, right? So I think making it compressed is super smart. Normally what you find is it's almost like, a few weeks, you get lots of news. And then like the week before the E3 period, it just goes dead. Everyone's like saving up the news and the ammunition and things like that. So
Mike just linked me that game case for Majora's Mask. $19.
Oh, 19. Oh, bargain then, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah. I swear it was
I'm
29.
buying
I
it
don't
now.
think they
That's
dropped it
pretty
because
bad.
no one was buying it for 29.
that's pretty bad.
I don't remember the exact price.
And outside of that, there's not many games coming out, like not massive ones. And there's a few that I'm picking up, but like they're more like later June. So it's kind of crazy period of time. But looking forward to when E3 kind of time period drops.
Yeah, I'm loving it. As I said earlier, like some games I played this week, I love. So I think it's a good chance to play those smaller games, honestly.
Yeah, same.
sweet.
Smaller games. Because I've been playing a little bit of Days Gone, and I forgot to say that at the start of the show, but I did play a little bit of that this week as well. I think the thing you were hinting at, that there's a bit of a game changer halfway through or whatever that a lot of people apparently don't get to. I don't know if it's the thing that Is it the Horde? Just tell me. Yeah. So I ran into a mini Horde already, and there was some hinting in one of the missions talking about it, and it was a cool mechanic so far. It was pretty small for as far as Hordes are, but it definitely felt tense.
Wait, what do you mean people don't know about that? That was in all the trailers.
No, it wasn't
the main focus.
It wasn't all the trailers, yeah.
But it's not like you have to play a fair amount of the game for the main Horde mode
proper
to come
Horde,
in.
yeah. This is the mini Horde.
And it's the whole reason why they built it on Unreal Engine, because they tried to build it with the Sony tools and they just couldn't. Like, it wouldn't cope with the amount of whatever they're called, infected in this game.
I don't know
Whatever. They're never called zombie, right? That's like the rule of zombie
not.
stuff. Don't call them zombies.
Weird reasons.
So yeah.
But as a result of that, it did get me thinking that if there's a bit of a lull in stuff coming out, it means Detroit becoming human. I want to play that. God of War, I want to play that. There's a few games on PlayStation that I want to hit.
You play God of War now because I'm playing it.
Okay. Maybe I'll get off Dying Light and play that instead.
All right. Well, I think that wraps us up for this week. Hopefully another busy week next week. But for now, bye-bye.
Adios.
See ya.